Right. Right across from my computer, Julie. Lynn.
Here.
Andrew. Here. Kathleen is here as well. We've got everyone here at the moment. The public comments. So this one is on here. This Douglas. Doug. Yeah. You wanna speak to us?
Yeah, so I got the certified letter about changing. Well, I got a certified letter, but I think it was the same company they draw on. It's pretty much this what it meant. So they wanted the zoning change, but I wasn't sure of that. So I called into the office couple times, but I heard back from anyone, but in calling today, I did talk to one person who told me that they're basically wanting to not use the 10-foot easement, but they want to shorten the 5 feet. And I think we're neighboring properties to that point. So, they just recently bought the home, and when you buy a home, you know what the restrictions are. So I feel like it was pretty well defined where you could build and not build on your property. So I don't want them coming any closer to mine. I'm assuming you don't want to yours. So I had evidence already, and they built a pool and put all the equipment, including drains and pumps and everything else. It's on my property line. It's a foot off the property line. So I just don't want to see anything closer, and also the property kind of slopes to the street. And I'd be able to see, I think it's going to be hard, and then maybe clarify what actually they're wanting to build. Because in the letter, it didn't specify, like you said, it's disturbed air. So if it's an RV cover that's 14 feet tall, I don't really want to look at that. Recently, the council approved the apartment conversion of a nursing home to a parking community across the street. And that was a good thing. It's not traffic on the street or a low, which is fine, lower income housing, but it doesn't, like, all these decisions. It'd be different. They just bought it, so they know what the restrictions are. So I'd like to see the zoning on the restrictions that are in all of these.
Okay. We'll get to that here shortly, and I'll probably put this few people in here. I'll probably just have to speak about it again if we have any questions or comments. So we're very interested in it. All right, so then we will go into the open public hearing. So this first one's going to be the approval of special use permits for lot size variance for 919 Main Street. Did you want to start with this one? Or
Why don't we do this, because no one's talking about that, why don't you go for the public hearing, close it, and during the regular session, I'll actually explain that item.
okay.
Do I have to talk about it then in the public?
I think after the,
I'm here to answer any questions.
to answer questions during the actual item.
Okay, so do we just want to go down to 619 or just go ahead and go to see new business?
So you're opening up the public hearing for item 1, and you'll open and close it, and you do that same thing with item 2. Open and close it, and do the same thing with item 3.
Right, but don't we want presentation before we can get provided?
We can give you this, we can put it for item 3.
Okay, then let's just start with that.
Good afternoon, planning commission, residents, business and visitors of Blanco. This is a request for what we call a dual building line variance. I'll kind of explain where it's at and what they're trying. So the applicant at 619 Live Oak Street, Michael Chris and Denise Chris, submitted a request, and what they're trying to do is look at of the drawing. And if you also want to look at, the area, they currently have a single family home, a swimming pool, which was discussed, and they wanted to put in a garage. It is correct that, first of all, our ordinance does not allow to have someone live or someone park an RV at a single family residence. You can see if that's what they're doing. If there's a garage, then it's a garage. Now, as Mr. Schmo did say, if you take a look at what his drawing is, based on having a swimming pool there, the house already there, they would actually need variance to the rear building. They're at, even though on the corner of Live Oak and Seventh, they're on Live Oak, so where they would actually have the garage, which would be rear. He wants to place 6 foot from the next property over. But that would actually be, it's actually asking for 5 just in case. But it's actually a 10-foot setback. He would need that to be 5-foot setback. So that's, I'm not saying that's what we should do, but that is actually what is being requested. 5-foot building line on the rear, so 10 foot for that building. Okay, and then we'll talk more about that when we come back to the actual item.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you said you're not allowed to park RVs on residential property in the city unless in a garage. Does that mean it has to be
It's
enclosed?
an enclosed garage. It would have to be an enclosed garage.
So it can't be an open, okay.
So the reason for his garage would be for the RV.
Correct. And I haven't seen the size of the garage, but it probably would have to be a 12 or 14 foot closure in order to close it, obviously. So,
Question, I never got a notice and I know that problem. That's why I was kind of wondering, this old business, it's new, but I never got one.
I follow the list that was given to me that was done by Harris County, by Glenville County. So I apologize that the list, they just gave me the list. So the notification is certified mail and then so I apologize.
So Mike's the big one. So no being recorded.
I'm sure it does.
It's still recording, so I'll be walking into 45 minutes.
We'll talk about it.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and go to closing public hearing, go to new business, and then my thought would be I just move this one up to item 1. And then we can just continue on it. With this being next to the two Adele property, or did you have anything you wanted to add? Were you going to?
No, it's one thing I do want to mention, the planning commission, it's really important that 2 things happen. And I mentioned this to everybody that submits information. I don't advocate, I may make a recommendation, but I advocate for the applicant and I don't advocate for the neighbors in the sense that I just follow this as the rules are. This variance is a pretty light ask from the standpoint of from 10 to 5, if it doesn't hinder neighbors. So if it's hindering neighbors that you're hearing, then that might change their opinion. Or not the applicant here, it's hard to do something in favor of the applicant, they can't show up. That's all I'm saying.
So, and the applicant's not here. So why aren't they putting this garage next to the house where they still have viable room for it versus asking for the variance in the back and potentially being tall? Why wouldn't it just go right here directly behind the house?
I've asked,
Plenty of room.
That yard and that 50 room by it.
Mhm.
They have plenty of room to put it, but it's only 5 feet. They put it up 5 feet. They gotta do something with that shed. They can do shed.
I had asked him that, but I've heard something about the shed, but again, that's not my problem. But if that's something, and variance are about whether there's a excuse or a hardship to grant. So, the neighbor, that may change.
To me, it sounds like it's more of a burden for the neighborhood. City on our property.
I like a little more. Right, drawings too to express, or explain a little more why he wants it here on the sim. From the pool. And why there's a line there and what size of the building. And for what reason versus just asking for a variance to kind of be passed. Because definitely we would, last thing we want to do is crowd out these lots. Well, which is going to be a hindrance to the neighbors, but also, give them a better master plan of their own property, because the pool obviously was placed in the location.
Well, and on their plans, anyway, they have it over the metal building, so they're planning on getting rid of the metal building.
That little metal shed.
Yeah, so they could just scoot it up.
They're gonna remove the metal shed, I think.
I mean, the thing is, they have enough room to build it right, so what is it not?
Well,
You know,
I have to agree, the reason is you can't park an RV if it's inside. And so they want to, how they do it, have it, when they want to cover the RV.
Right, and they could build the structure on a different part of it.
Yes. I'm busy.
Or you could also shrink it 5 foot this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Lengthways to accommodate extra square footage, and then they'd be totally fine. Because it's 30 foot wide is what I'm kind of reading on this hand scratch. If that's correct, and then maybe 41 foot long.
So it sounds like we're
It's
all.
a very odd size, make it 25 by 45.
but even here, they still have to make it enclosed, because it's visual from the front and the side, because unfortunately, they're a corner lot, correct? Just because they're sticking it in the back, doesn't mean they can just do an over roof.
No, it's a full garage. It has to be a full garage. His problem is that the lot, even though it's not very small, the lot gets tight.
So it sounds like we're in agreement. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I motion to decline the variance request for 619
610.
flat.
I'm second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Our recommendation would be to deny the variance.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so then we will move back to new focus item 1.
So for the rest of people listening, this will go to city council on July 9th with a recommendation to disapprove.
So I think what was kind of like in this situation, like you're all looking at drawings and whatever. So we just get a benign letter that says this property is looking to make variance. So maybe in the future, it'd be possible to just share like this is what they're doing. I still would deny it, but it takes a lot of effort to call multiple times, show up here, and you know what I mean? Like it would just really help be more informative to the person who's affected by the variance.
Right.
Then I don't know what I can do, but that pool equipment was installed on my fence line without any notice. So if you look at the pool equipment, I mean, it is right on the fence line, and I think actually the fence isn't in the right spot. So I just would love to see that it be more like let people know when that's gonna happen, because I would have thought that it's too late. And it's already happened, so I don't know what I can do now, what my recourse is, but. if
I'm
you're-
gonna look into that. I would look and see what the permit was for building a pool, if they pulled the permit.
Yeah, so at this point, like, I know that fence is in the wrong spot already,
Okay.
so it's probably on my property. There's a good chance, because it's right on the fence. But again, I'm not trying, I don't want to be mean or, but I think the better we can communicate. Well, the pool is new, it's new in the last.
No, but I mean, your fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's when the last seller that sold that property said, I think I have a problem. She knows it's in the wrong spot. She's like, so that makes me pretty confident that the pool.
It's on our property, we have what do you call those people?
That is surveyed, that came in.
They came in, measured us out,
Yeah,
because they sold the house next to us.
Which is
So
your.
right.
they wanted to know if they were right. or
Yeah.
they were out.
So I'll look into 619. Okay, you want my number or sir?
So I just want to make a
How about you?
comment. We only recommend denial, or it goes to city council. They actually approve deny, not us. So, you know, if it's important to you, you want to go to that city council meeting. Because even if we don't recommend, which they did not hear, they could still approve it.
Are
Some
they
do.
stepping into our property at 326th Street and Calm? Or are they just stepping on his back, Chuck's back?
Well, they're not gonna, they're only coming closer.
With all the central flood.
They're not stepping into your property, they're not stepping 5 feet from your property.
And this is a private owned family, like we are?
I
Or,
don't know who they are.
because I've never seen them either.
It's Michael and Darlene.
Because, I feel like we're a residential area.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what I'm wanting to keep, peace, residential, know your neighbor, not people in and out, people out.
Yeah. no,
Like
that's-
one of those rental places.
I apologize, y'all. You're done.
Sorry.
Best of luck to you. Typically, the council will listen, but I don't know if you definitely want to show up that way, you just plead your case there too.
July 9th.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Yes.
Tuesday, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we will get back to new business, item 1.
So these are basically two different items, but really the same. Which is new business item number 1 and number 2. So it's a variance to allow alongside approximately 500 square feet. Says part of 6,500 in R5 zone. This property on the corner of 10th Street and 281 from a practical standpoint of the address. Is a street address. So the reason, so I'm kind of going to go back and forth between the variance and why you're asking for the variance. So the variance is to allow basically a lot. It's 6,500 square foot is your bare minimum on off. This property, the line property, 0.42 acres. And it's on the corner. And currently right now, there are 2 homes on there. One is the actual main house, where the one that had built 62, and then, there's all the, accessory dwelling is actual public line units. And that's on a rear with it, will be for the public cabin, built 2000. There's a driveway that goes from there to 10th Street. So so basically 3 steps here. Then we get the variance, the 5,500 or 5,550 on the side, and so 6,500. You get approval for the STR. And the third thing that they would do after all of that is to do a plat, their subdivision plat. Subdivide this exactly now. 2 lots. So the only way that there's really 2 different types of, I'm trying to jump around, there's 2 different types of STR. There's what's called owner-occupied STR, which the applicant discovered. I would say your name wrong, so.
Even Chinso.
Okay.
Oh, I never been saying it wrong for over a year.
So, this, 5,500 there's basically two types of, sorry, I can't speak. Two types of STR. One being having STR for owner occupied, and the other being non-owner occupied. Owner occupied means that this lot remains this lot, and it's always sold together, and that it's owner occupied, meaning that the owner actually lives in the place that they're according to the STR. That does not count to 10%. Doesn't do anything as far as to that neighborhood. If you remember, the STR we currently have has a recommendation of 10%. So for basically one block, one non-owner occupied STR. That's the rule. Allowing this variance to 5550 would eventually allow for a non-owner occupied STR. Denying this, I would still recommend the council, we would still recommend the council that you approve it as a owner. So that's where this is at.
When did it have to be? Because I thought you could do an SDR or
So you can do it.
I didn't think you needed council approval for that.
Okay. You have to get council approval for an owner STR, owner occupied STR, or a non-owner occupied STR. However, the owner occupied STR basically, council can approve. The non-owner occupied STR. But in this case, if it is granted at 5550, or they're asking for 5500, so 6500, then it will be approved. Approve one, approve both.
It's staff recommendation at this point.
Staff, so I want to explain the staff's recommendation is a light recommendation in the sense that I think it's a small house. So the recommendation is to grant it. However, looking at the other standpoint, this is why I was asking who's going to be here to answer this question. Big question is, I have a problem with it on my end. The big question is, and again, one person that against the documentation. But the real big question is, why do they want it? Why have a non-owner occupied STR? So that would be the question. Regardless of that, since I haven't had that conversation with the applicant, recommendation is for you to approve this and set it down.
So I think the good point is besides just this information,
Yeah, I've seen on it. So this property, since you're the only one, is mine. I've not spoken with PZ side one way or the other with me, so I want to make that clear. So we do own a property there on 10th and 281. There are two houses on that property. The house in the back faces 10th, and we secured a driveway permit for the front house to be able to separate those two houses. We do live there. It is our primary residence in the front block house, but we haven't done anything with that house in the back. And one reason why is for us is liability purposes. We don't want to rent that house short-term, long-term, or for a business, which we could also rent it for because it's attached to our primary residence. So to be able to split that house, make it its own lot for either short-term rental, a business rental, or completely to sell it, we need to split it, and we would want to put it in the name of an LLC. So even though we would own the LLC, it is still a standalone entity. So it would not be then, in the sense of the words, truly owner occupied. That house in the back, the main part of it, was built in the 60s, and the addition was built in 2000. It's been a rental the whole time it's been there, long term, maybe short term. It has its own water meter and electric and trash, which it's always had. So our purpose is to do something with it, which would either be rent it, sell it, or short-term rent it. right now currently it's only being taxed as an additional structure. So in my mind, it's a win-win to put that house in full use. It would then become a full taxable residence. And of course, for me, that's the zoning you want one of those houses in. The letter that came in is for the house adjacent to us that faces 281. That house, that's a out-of-state owner, and that's a rental. So for me, I get they're staying on short-term rentals. However, they're next to a gas station, they're across from a hotel. So for us, I feel like that house is best use also to stand alone.
So your only reason is for liability, because you can get insurance that would make no difference whether it's separate lot or not, it'll be the same protection. Liability standpoint. But my question would be, having they turn these down before for the lot size, so that we're not getting everyone putting commercial smaller lot size all up and down who you want, or I think those things you have for people not making them smaller lot sizes. When Laura Swanson was talking about all that shrinking.
Well, the smaller lot size for the city was, you don't want a lot of parking on the properties. You want to try to get more structure on it. I did look up before I turned it in that we do have probably, I say at least 50 lots around the surrounding area that are 5,500 or smaller, but it wouldn't be just liability. It would also be to utilize it, because you wouldn't want to rent a business attached to your residence, because we have a mortgage on the primary, the whole lot. And it would also be if we wanted to sell it. So if someone came up with an offer, we would then be able to sell it. So it's a couple of reasons for us. Is why we feel like that's really more of a standalone. It's really not a guest house or a casita because of its size.
So I do want to address a few things. On purpose, I have to look at keeping these packs small and what's included and what not included. The reason why I didn't include, and we did a lot of work putting all the different things at different places that although they're non-conforming uses, okay, I don't care about non-conforming uses. Talk about conforming. But I will say it is good for the city to have get more hot taxes. But you have to be careful. Well, one thing I didn't want to say, when I was very, struggling with this on my end, because it's a small ask on one end, but the actual reason, the actual hardship to have an STR and have a smaller lot, I believe. And that's why I went through this, I went through all of this. But if you actually look at this information, it's a small ask. It's been there a long time. I don't say a real issue with it. However, I can see the other way also. There is, they still do an STR, which is go wrong. But you couldn't sell it, and there's value to be able to sell it. So there's all these different things. That's where you can consider. But the recommendation is for staff recommendation. The variance allowed for small ones.
So if you did, so you're wanting to completely eventually split this property from property that you're in. Like, where would you do a survey line that's 13.7 feet from that back corner of the house to your?
Yeah, that would be one of the variants, because that lot would be smaller. You want to keep the main house at a 10-foot property line, because that house ultimately would probably become a business. So you would split that house to where it'd be the 4 feet on the little house, and you want to retain the 10 feet setback on the big house.
So star 5, if I didn't mention that, but I think I mentioned this in the packet. Star.
I want freedom, obviously, for us to not do our properties, but then we're also not approving the 5-foot setback on that other property. It's kind of like, I don't want to be double standard either, when we agree on these things.
overall.
That was one is sort of backfill built.
Right, the first already
By, no, it's there, so there's a little separation.
Yeah. So you did approve something similar on, Foster. I can't remember that's them and Manning, they're both. And so you did something similar to that, allowing, I think I'm on 53. Different. It was different in the sense that you weren't changing the actual use.
Separate out business to stay business versus separate and go with it.
Versus this, you separated something to maybe allow for a business. So it's up to you, but it's supposed to.
Is that the one that had the therapist?
Yeah.
So we rezoned that whole lot. in that approval?
Yeah, I think we'll charge you.
So you're saying survey line.
You know, and I'm just talking this about just getting information. Obviously, there's already only a 3.7 setback in here. I guess the only thing would be if we're trying to mind our neighbors, right? This guy right here would be then possibly at some point if he sold it. Having, you know, any kind of business, right? So I would say, and of course, from hearing what your preference was, Lynn, that you don't want neighbors, just like on a short term. So if you did end up selling that, you would have a neighbor literally directly looking at your backyard. I know the property well. It was poorly constructed from the start. Just kind of placed that hazard there, obviously. But, you know, that you bring it up for conversation, but that, you know, I love the fact that you clean up these properties. It's fine, starting with fresh and clean. But then again, you know, I don't think I would ever want to buy this house. I'm scared of business.
Well, I don't think, well, we need to put the fence back up, it's also it's generating fence. But I don't think the front house, in my mind, probably would not be a residence again. I mean, it may, but it's too noisy there. Bus yard. So that one would need to retain its 10-foot setback in my mind.
Yeah, I got to put staff there to talk about. And then turn off.
You know, I guess that would be my only thing is I just want to make sure we're not trying to speak and stuff. Various to prove something and also deny one. It's not that I want people to think about this. So favoritism, but if this is my property, that's what I want. That's what I'll ask for.
I think in terms of precedent, the Dawson's property is pretty close.
Yeah.
So I do go with ways on this.
I think the setback is obviously different on there.
The reason I'm okay with it is because it's on main drag and in town, we already have this from the olden days, really weird property lines. And I don't think it'll be
Well,
different.
This is the best the property's lived. 25, 30 plus years, so.
Kathleen, what are your thoughts?
I'm okay with it. Is there anyone that, you said there was a letter for someone who wrote in that said that they,
Yeah, the letter.
right, so that's a,
Handwritten letter on.
actual, no, I don't know what that was. Barbara
Father Mitchell.
Mitchell. Right,
And Lynn said she'd across 281.
She's beside us, she bases 281 too. She lives in California, that house is a rental house. So she borders our main house and she's right across from the hotel and right next to the gas station.
so it's already a busy area anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the end of all this is it could be a short-term rental as it is now.
In all honesty, the letter as far as affecting property value, I think we need more things that would. It's only been climbing like crazy, so I don't think that's really concerned at all.
Well, I don't think we're also making it like property.
I don't think it's.
Separate it out to sell it, I think it's gonna be. So, well, I don't want to discount her thoughts. I think there's moving parts here.
And I'm okay since we did, like I said, the one that was there, but it was kind of close to this,
Very similar.
so. So, I don't know that it's ideal, but.
So are we talking about being in some sort of an agreement on one or two or both. You all, and so if I think you're kind of in the middle on maybe,
I don't care either way. I think it's great if people are fixing stuff up. Wrong, but I think the consistency for me, I don't want to be labeled just saying, proving one thing and then saying another. I think the difference is a good point, and Julie brought it up, it's on 381 versus the one who used to deny the variances. It is only residential right there.
Well, I think more
I don't
importantly,
know if it's come up with that.
you buy a property without something, and somebody builds something,
We're trying to stop.
your life changed because somebody else built. This, you're buying something, knowing what's next door. So I think you're in a little bit more of the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
Kind of the argument that we made about the neighborhood that was going on with apartments. It was, the apartments were moved to where it wasn't like, I had this property for 50 years and all of a sudden the apartment complex in my backyard. That to me makes a bigger impact of, I don't want to hurt a neighbor by all of a sudden something changes versus something that's there utilized differently. Any thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve, number 1 and number 2 on 919 Main Street to approve the variance request and the rental permit.
Just out of the point of clarification, Warren, there's not other short-term rentals around there, but that's the ordinance anyway.
That's correct. There's no short-term rentals around there.
So it means it's.
It really meets expectations.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? That one will be sent to council with our suggestions to approve. We were skipping number 3, as that one is completed, we're now moving to number 4. So this will be consideration, discussion, and take possible action on approval of ordinance 2024-0, proposal amendment. Unified Development Code. Okay, historic preservation commission consists of 7 members. Is that right? Going from 6 to 7? All right. We got it. Perfect. We got it. Okay.
You promise?
No. Okay. Okay, let's go back to number 4. Yeah, the reason why they want to do that, the historic preservation commissioners have had problems because of illness for a long time. Commissioners, and we have another one that she's not doing that. But until we all get a resignation letter, this thing. So 7 versus 6, we still have a form before show up. We have 5 that show up. So they were constantly having that problem. There was a lot of flicks of children after I left, it's 5 years. They make it, I shouldn't get back, they called me back 6 months ago, I was trying to retire. And it is like a full-time job trying to stay in camp. So it's been voted by the commissioners to go from 6 to 7 commissioners and follow the same rules. The motion before it.
Okay. I don't see any issue with that. My only thought when I was reading through it is, this is a whole different level, but I did kind of feel like there should probably be somebody that's owns business or works in business or something in the historic district that's part of the historic submission. Now, I know it's got certain speculations of what
It's not
it's
mine also, there should be.
supposed to be.
Yeah, but when you ask anybody to swear, they'll run the other way. Fair. There's nothing we can do. We've been begging for these are leading.
We understand.
But it's only going to get serious.
We can ask the condition of agreements that they ask the business owner first. They're doing that step by step.
Well, I think it lists categories of people that should be on there. My only thought would be maybe the priority would be business owners. Now, if they don't get involved, I completely understand we're missing 2 members and soon to be 3. But, okay, yeah, I don't see any issue with the 7. I think it would be nice to have somebody that's making recommendations for businesses to follow to have a skinny. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's easy to look from the outside and be like, no. You're actually in the fight on the square, particularly with this kind of things, it could be time consuming. Out of reality done, and that's not fun, if someone has to speak to me, I need to know more understanding of what it's like and what we're trying to do. To follow the district guidelines.
Has Sandra at 419 announced?
Sandra?
Sandra?
Yeah, she'd be good. Siobhan, I'll stick more time.
Yeah.
Siobhan at 419,
No,
or sorry,
Sandra?
Sandra at 419, Siobhan at 419.
The camera,
I have a question. So you have 6 members now, you're asking to change the code to have 7 members.
it's the Bible.
And your bylaws now probably are similar to ours, where so many have to be in the city, 2 in the county. Is that,
It's, I haven't looked at the.
but it's probably similar to
So many
ours.
to ETJ, along with the school rock. So many in town. They would prefer somebody in the square, an architect, TE, something on that, all that. We have an architect, young guy, his wife just had a child. And so he's like too busy for right now. He works in Austin, but he does a lot. And so I can follow up where we are good candidates, but I try to stay away from that. I'm traffic. So if you guys want to recommend someone, then it's Warren, normally the mayor is the one that starts looking at that. That's what I'm about.
I can send it to the treasurer.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve that, your commission can have 7 members instead of 6.
I second.
Any discussion?
Well, that might be
Yes, I would like to see recommend, a change to 7 members with the priority of that 7th member to be somebody that owns or works a business in the square, but if that's not what I want to approve, I just,
I do, I want to add it.
Yes.
So I have to send a letter to the business owners on the square asking, letting them. And getting them back to the-
It goes down a location. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was giving them local on the square an opportunity versus them finding some guy cost. In all honesty, I'd rather it be just hard solar people here see it and affected by it every day. The last thing we need is another out of town. That's gonna be improvement.
So is that you just want them to send a letter to the businesses, or that you're gonna mandate that one of the
no, I don't think that's possible. I don't
properties
think
of
it's a
business
mandate.
owner in the
If they don't
square?
apply or try to do it, you're not gonna get, but I would like for to be some stuff. This is where you go first, and if I will turn it down and go after what you can get, because I know y'all struggle like we do, getting good quality people to show up and a consistent stay a long time. I know it's hard, but I just like the idea of somebody that is affected by the rules as part of the one making it versus making rules for somebody else that you don't have to live with.
Yeah, well, I think it should be the practice of anything, you try to like, there's someone that is actually local. The lady that wrote the complaint, or didn't want to approve your variance, well, that's fine, if she was local as far as owning the business. It doesn't affect her, she lives in California. So I don't want to just get another random person, I think it's.
So do we want to continue or?
I would amend the motion to approve it with the condition that the historical, commission has to send a letter to all of the historic owners of the land buildings, that there's a position open and that they can apply.
They get first.
You're amending the bylaws. Yeah. I'll leave it in writing on the outside. You know, I think it's practice. But today, they want to move from 7.
Yeah, all we're saying is we would recommend doing the 7th, but that stipulation on the 7th would be.
But I don't think with just that, you can amend their bylaws, because this is sort of a one-time event of a recommendation, to where you wouldn't really amend bylaws for that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You can see that. Changing, you can see.
I know, that's what I'm saying, like, I
It's
sort of,
changing it for 67.
yeah, we changed that with the requirement of the best efforts that you mail a letter to all the historic building owners, right?
Is
And
it
it
the
doesn't,
bylaws to mail a letter?
huh?
So it gives the bylaws to mail a letter?
No, I think
What
what
their
she's
bylaws
saying is
are,
bylaws
bylaws,
need to have
like
that in
a-
there, right? The bylaws need to be generic as possible.
Yeah, it's
So we
like,
need to add that, but we can ask that to be the policy that they do.
But the UDC
Optimize.
states a lot of things about where people need to live, where they need to be, where they need to work, and what protections they have. So I think it would be too complicated to say, our recommendation is to approve this evidence with this suggestion of, or with this requirement of attending.
Okay, so that 7 then would be
It could be anybody, but
Yeah,
I'm just asking
but this-
them to
right,
send that
this-
letter out.
the 7th. The 7th should be someone who owns a business in the square. They would receive preference over any other applicant. Is the ask,
Basically,
correct?
giving them at least an opportunity, because literally half the stuff, haven't gotten any opportunity to think or discuss. Then, yeah, you find out that there's a guy from Long Beach, Texas, that's not only information. See, it doesn't make any sense. The locals need to have an opportunity. And it doesn't have to change the bylaws at all for one of us to write an email or, post something in the newspaper saying this position.
so I think the way it has to state, and because it's a bylaw, it's like corporate.
Well, the bylaw is added.
So like ours,
Bylaws act.
Not your
ours
concept.
specifically says that 3 members have to live in the city. 2 have to live in the ETJ and 1 has to be in the county, where before it didn't really have. So if you want to change his bylaws, the corporate governing document, I think you have to make it a mandate. In other words, I don't know what yours says now, but if it's 3 in the city,
Well, there's right now says
3 in
preference
the
of these
county.
professions.
Oh, it just says a preference?
Yeah, because it says preference would be, I think,
Realtor.
yeah, historians, architects.
But then it goes to the lake.
Well, and I'm not, you said on requesting.
And I would add that into
I'm not
preference.
requesting anything, we're just saying, let's have some better practices in town, not have behind closed doors. Yeah, I've got a really good friend of mine that lives up in Round Rock, that is just
Yeah.
awesome at this, and wonders to Austin, let's get him over here to be on this board. I think that should be first presented, and it's not changing the bylaw for them to have a better
I like
practice.
the idea, but that doesn't happen. It's in the bylaws, that won't happen. I mean, you have to.
We're not saying it's
I'm just,
we're thinking 10, 20 years down the road.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and my thing isn't saying anything about bylaws changing, you're the one asking for bylaws to change, I'm saying let's be professional in, hey, Julie, you have a reputation for a coffee shop and some open one versus, let me go ask, Starbucks, what they would feel about it, Bill, just have a better practice, I'm not saying you're not, I'm saying in general, I think it's a good thing to give opportunities to people to step up in the community.
So
The way you're looking at 2 different parts, one improve the 7, the other one is what you recommend. Put something in writing to try to get the business people. As a recommendation, like right now it has the mayor. But then any member can also.
Well, the mayor can go get them, but y'all can let those people know that the mayor is.
Yeah, once this gets approved in city council, but it. Here you go.
Right, all I think we would do is just approve the 7th with the stipulation of preference.
with the stipulation of adding,
Sending a notice to the business.
a historic square business owner in the preferences. That's what I think we're getting at, right? So we approve the 7th, and then you said there's a list of preferences, architects, historian. We can add in that preference that it be a business owner on the square.
That's.
I think that's, yeah, that's in there. What, I think the
Yes.
difference is, we're talking about engaging them rather than just having a list of people.
How about this for Julie's? To approve 7 members with a letter to all historic building owners in the city to fill or replace a member.
To recruit.
In other words, if nobody's going, you hire whoever you want for the 7th, but to fill or replace one, you would have to send a letter to all historic building owners each time. In other words, someone who quits in 6 months, your first step, then you have to send a letter to all historic building owners in the city. And if nobody will join, then you can fill. Would that work?
I think that's a good.
Does
We
that
give them
sound-
first shot.
We have a motion.
We already have one. It's on her floor. I think we have to approve the amendment. So I second the amendment, and then we have to vote on the amendment. That's all.
All in favor of the amended motion?
That's right.
Alright, that one is good. Now we're going on to the second one. So this one, I wasn't quite sure what it meant, so they should explain this one.
Go to the page, like, go get the 9 pages.
The one that you just emailed me?
Yeah, the one we
Yeah.
did up there.
Is it in here?
Yeah, there's nine.
Yeah, if you look at number 5. And what I did, I searched here, eco, everything that had to do with it. It was, we go to the next page 6. And it has.
Where it says 120 days,
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. What page is that?
page 5.
Okay, now we're talking about- okay, so what that is saying, if you read it on time, if the historic commission is decided to have a historic district on Cypress Square, then it's mandated if they demo anything there, they gotta wait 120 days. However, today, we have a lot of landmarks which need 50 years or over. Significant. It's trash. I don't care if it's 100 years, it's trash. No one's gonna save it. That does happen. So what we're trying to do, because the certified local government, which they are here since 2006, or the Texas Historic Commission, is governed by national laws on preservation, mandates that we have at least a 60-day demolition in the square. And there's not, it's not enough. UDC.
So basically, you're bringing us up to compliance and then a little bit more than what is required of you anyway.
So the minimum, the CLG request is 60 days. Most towns go even further, it's been 90, 120, it might be 180, but realistically 120. And again, if someone says we want to knock down this particular building and it's 100 years old, but there's no significance in that building, they will say, we'll tell the permits at the city hall, go ahead and knock it down, there's no value. And that would come before the commissioners. There has to be, the last 20 years that I recall, we have lost 5 historic homes. If you look at the old map from 1990, 33 years ago, behind the little kids when they play basketball, there used to be an old building there. That got knocked down. I understand it's Sunday. I don't recall that. Shouldn't happen. It did. So this is putting a restriction that when they get a permit, like we lost at one house, 4th or 5th or 6th, in 281, they called it the Gold House, that they were selling.
So are you saying that this is not just the historic district, this is any house that's 50 years old or older?
We're trying to go citywide in ETJ because the commissioners, if you look at the model, they can survey an inventory, that's a federal and state requirement and city requirement, that they survey all those older buildings. There's not enough meat in the UDC. I have a whole stack of paperwork that's been taken further, put more of the information. Say, for instance, you have a home, you sell it and knock it down. It's significant. Can someone buy it off of you and move it? Or can you give that away? Or if no one wants to do that, will someone be willing to go out there and dilapidate it and reuse that lumber? Because if you want to knock down a building, you want to knock down a building, you want anybody to do it. But there's measures, alternatives to that. But it's not here. So later in the future, we're gonna go. But that has to be changed.
So I'm familiar with those rules because I know in cities, and you have some here, there's a couple of homes that are all very similar rock build that could be from some famous architect or something. I don't know what research has been done on those homes. But if you look around, there's probably 5 or 6 homes that are all built in the same, looks like year, 2-3 years, all the exact same rock design and stuff like that. So I'm assuming, what does it take y'all, like 30, 60 days and possibly earmark that home for itself as a historic structure? Or you allow the demolition and try to resell? Or it just depends?
I'll also release it.
Well, right now, what do you have, 30 to 60 days
No, there's
to allow
nothing
it?
in writing.
Oh, you have
There's
nothing
in
now,
writing.
okay,
So we don't even match with the state's minimum.
okay.
It's not in writing. There is a demolition. There it's. Again, it's like, if there's an emergency, which we've had to go here now, and they need to knock it down for some unbelievable reason, maybe it's gonna fall into the highway and cause accidents. Then the city takes over that and it's an emergency. That could happen. Tornado, wind, storm, ice. Then they go in and they go.
So let's say I wanted to buy a house that was built in 1965. And it was trash out there going over, tear down the rebuilt house. You're saying this would then say I need to wait 120 days for somebody else to turn it into stuff?
Yeah, pause. Yeah.
For study it.
If the commissioners feel that there's a significance on that building, there's none. Then it's not to be debated, but whether it's nothing value of that. Is there a history behind it? Maybe it was a doctor's home, first mayor, that kind of stuff.
So, but what's the maximum? Because you get in these situations, I think for some people, you know, is it gonna take longer than 120 days? Because now they have to wait another month for a PhD meeting and another month for a city council meeting. And somebody's trying to research and they're out a lot, you know, like, what's the maximum for someone trying to build something?
The city could get in and make a.
Moratorium, you know, it's going to be.
And that's on the VDC. They think the city council, they were in 120 days, in a letter. And the city council, and you guys, the city, no.
And stuff, right?
Then they can go in and.
So the city would just be 120 days.
Well, I just feel bad for people if they, because stuff doesn't happen fast, and then you think people drag their feet 6 months, 8 months, not get an answer, like.
And that's what I said, I'm holding, sorry.
I sort of feel like
Then
it
there's
should
one
have a
holding
max.
site.
I think it should have a max instead of a minimum.
There was a Fulton site that 120 days is too long. They want to get it over.
Well, I understand what you're saying, you know, as far as there is some really old homes, some have been fixed up, some of them look good in the roads, more of a paint job, but it would be sad to see someone buy a pretty decent house that could use a couple $100,000 and take it, wow, and just wipe away and build their new brand new modern infrastructure of a house. And I can understand that if someone wants to do that, that'd be a pain to have to go through this process. But I would say better than even trying to make more requirements and infringe on someone's right to buy that 1960s home out of the historic district. Unfortunately, that'd be a very wasteful person, I would think, but I would say there's more responsibility on the city to say, hey, what are you doing? What is the plan? Oh, you want to demo this house? Are you going to demo and fully rebuild? Okay, I recommend you rebuild in X. Or if you are completely going to demo it, the city really say, hey, let's get this thing sold. So we're not just wasting a perfectly good historic structure. But I think it's a far stretch trying to make someone outside of the district conform to whatever it is just because it's an older home. I've had a couple, I have a 1950s duplex and I plan to rebuild it identical to it is one day. And brand new stainless steel metal, fine, beautiful home, it needs some major repairs. So I'm not gonna demo it and build a brand new structure. If I do, I'll sell the house. But I would hate that to be held up.
And
Like, I'd rather see a maximum, so people get moving on this stuff.
just, think about his thoughts right there. It was all like. Feels not good, it's all different. We've had more of an outcry. Why did they not? We're powerless. We're outside the district. Why didn't y'all do something about that? And then they get very, throughout the year, they get very upset that historic buildings are not built. You know, the old saying was keep Michael. And on last commissioners meeting, he was here. One of them said it's not Michael. Not that I don't give anything like that, but I hear that stuff. You know, it's that we're human, or forefathers that lived here. And a lot of the older ones and their kids want it to stay the way it is. They're the ones driving here and look like victims. They're trying to preserve as much as you can. And the first thing that you should think about Historic Preservation Commission, one word would be preservation. So when you talk to us, I'm not talking to the handbook, our model is preservation. And if we don't have rules that the residents want, then what do we tell them? We have no power. And then they say, well, what do y'all do?
All right, probably some of them are.
Well, we're gonna have a little bit of issues. If you buy a building in historic district, you understand you're governed by the historic preservation. But you buy, from a contractor standpoint, you wanna figure out a house and flip it. You buy a house that was built in 1969, dilapidated. You buy it, and all of a sudden you're told, hey, you need to wait 120 days. And then they figure out, oh, we're gonna have somebody come in and take it down piece by piece and move it. I just feel like it's a little bit of an enforcement of property rights.
It is for sure.
Because if you're buying the property not knowing it, because you're probably not going to community seat versus you buy something in the square
Well, any wise contractor or any investor is the value of what's there is important. But it's not from the architectural standpoint, they might not like the old look, and they want to do a totally different style. So that would be an agreement on what they want to do with that property. But I think it's good to recommend to anyone something, hey, it's got that old teardrop siding, you tear it out. Why don't we take this? And that's part of the historic commission to say they had an opportunity to have all this. Use it as you will, repurpose it around the square, whatever it may be. But I do like the concept of having some organization within the laws, but then again, also not infringing on, they're not in the historic district, so it's really not something they're supposed to have to follow. Like for me, I did follow as much as I could. I found oak floors underneath the shag carpet and the linoleum. We've got 1 inch red oak diagonally thrown. It's beautiful. Now eventually when I redo the siding, I'm gonna probably drop 4-inch lap that kind of simulates the old siding. And I do that because I do like the same stuff. I like to have old. We're doing a 1908 house right now. I said, absolutely not destroy the rock walls and everything of that structure. For me, it's very sentimental and it's a wonderful thing.
But let's say you didn't like that stuff. How would you feel about it?
It would be an option, absolutely. Find that. But
I'm not on one side or the other. I've always tended towards property rights.
Yeah.
I have a question about the way this is written. Because it says, historic preservation, James certificates of appropriateness required for demolition, minimum 120 days stay of demolition for eligible landmarks or contributing properties located within a historic district. So are eligible landmarks, is that just a blanket statement for anything that's over 50 years or over?
And that's something you can see that says that we didn't make that up. You look at page 5.
So just so I understand what you're reading, what this is saying is you need a certificate of appropriateness to tear down a house built in 1965 inside city limits that's nowhere near the square. I've never caught that before.
So that's just within the city limits and that includes the ETJ.
That would not,
Okay.
And does the EDC specifically state 65 years or what's the stay for any demolition permit within the city to determine if it then could be a landmark or a historic?
They don't know what that is. It's 50 years.
Well, whatever these years are,
Okay,
is the
that-
stay for every single demolition permit? Or is it gonna have a age to the stay?
On that age, on the building, we haven't done that. We don't, the city does not have that. Some cities say, 100 years or older, so that's 65 goes away. Old house, but my house was built in 1870. They are looking to that. That's got a lot of history. Really like old landmarks, not just any old building.
But the stay,
Significant.
but this stay is for any demolition permit.
Well, no, because it says demolition for eligible landmarks. What is the definition of eligible landmark?
Yeah, that'd be.
And it says, or contributing properties located within the historic district, which does within the historic district. My question is, what is an eligible
Yeah.
landmark?
Is that saying in the district or citywide?
It says, eligible landmark.
Okay, and again, we don't have that information, it was never printed. when I look at the UDC, no offense to completely together, because I wasn't into the first year, but we never got to this story. It's very weak.
So it could be
It's very-
all demolition.
So real quick question. Someone's gonna actually deal with it. That's usually me. So the question
Just
is,
call me, I'll be there.
anyway, question is this, we get a deal, because, you know, someone wants to, do a demolition. Anything over 50 years old, does that mean I have to send that to the historic review?
You just don't approve demolition and give out permits, as has been done in the past. It's just knock it down. Okay, where, like that one, you don't know what I'm talking about? That was.
Anything after 1974?
They're knocking
After
out things.
1974, we're gonna send it to
But
them.
let's be clear, that 50 years old is not designated. In other words, there is no designated parameter of what these states go to.
Unless
It's what
they
he's
say
saying.
demolition.
This, if you approve this based on how it's written right now, this means every single demolition permit that happens in this town would have to be looked at for historical or landmark purposes. So they wouldn't be able to demo for 90 days unless you set the parameters on what
You're
defines
going in the right road, but
eligible.
let me fix that. He gets a demolition permit. Ready, go take a look. HBO, go take a look.
Every single time he needs.
Yeah. Hey, somebody walked in and get the permit, and somebody has to follow up and go take a look.
So if he gets 15 in 1 week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday,
So, yeah,
you're
who's
gonna
gonna
go.
go with it?
Which I think should happen anyway.
How many
Somebody's still-
demolitions have done with it?
I'm just throwing out a,
We're not in San Antonio. I don't know. We talked about that in the training a couple of weeks ago. A lot of the stuff that we do, so, you know, like that, because it's a legitimate statement that's making, just not gonna happen. It's like I work under COAs, I'm only having 2 or 3. I like to have 2 or 3 a week. Just doesn't happen.
but we also are not making ordinance for today, making ordinances for 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah, once the city goes outside the boundaries, it's gonna be on you. And that's if I 1 or 2 barns.
I think you're better to have it where it is, if your thing doesn't fall, that your property, the house doesn't fall in that age bracket, then it does not have to be installed. He would know that based on the survey, the.
The application said how old the building is.
But I think that should be, because that's just gonna slow up other things, and it will, 20, 30 years down the line, and this town is a lot bigger.
You can get a planning commission on this.
Let me go back to
He
that.
has to set what that is.
Absolutely. I think there should be some sorts of things in there to define that, because the last thing we need, in all honesty, we need more places in this town demoed to the ground and rebuilt, because of how I've done so many service calls in this town, I've got thousands of invoices, and I'm shocked that people are putting they're a health hazard. I would say that it would be sad for someone who's finally getting the money together and the courage to do some work, and then have to go get through another process, especially if it's just like, Warren could drive by and, oh, that was built in the 70s. That is a job.
Well, in
Let's go.
120 days, those codes sale 120 days or reuse. So you're talking about, let's say, $2,000 a month, so that's an $8,000 wait.
Well, yeah, for construction purposes, a 3-month wait on timeline is actually pushing you back another. Because then I can't actually give an honest answer to any subcontractors lining out the scope of work, because I'm still playing with a 3-month, it might happen. We're based on schedules, and they're always mad when
Not to make this difficult, we have to follow the local certified government, minimum 60 days. You can lower it from 120 to 60. We have to do that, it's state law.
but not
The
outside.
stay right now is 60 days.
For the district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
historically.
For the district, unless you go take in addition, and I'm having right to do today, outside the district, older homes than 100 years, 75 is more common. So there's a lot of work that needs to put in here, and I'm gonna go back to that house. You all recall that house? What's it? Let's go to the village. They knocked it down and have a home builder put a double wide and had it so now it's abandoned. And they said that house was not fixable. I worked on more houses than that. It was fixable. I met with a man out of Boston, he went in and buy and fix it. Someone said, oh, it's not worth anything, knock it out. I think you got this genuine historic preservation conference that know how to work on it. And the first doctor's office in Cherry and I, the group was all promoted and foundation, we fixed that and. But they would have knocked it down because it was.
So based on what you just said, state law requires a 60-day stay on demolition permits, but that's if it's deemed historic or landmark. But what we're missing here in my mind is we're not defining that. So now what we're doing, if we approve this, is we're putting all stops on all demo orders throughout the entire city because we haven't deemed what is minimum requirements for historic. So basically, what we would be doing is saying now the historic commissions the entire city, all demo orders. But we don't know what a landmark would be, a new landmark, because something potentially.
Well, very simple, just make sure there's that clause that it's 70, like 1970, I don't have it in front of me, it's 1970 or newer. It's the same process. That's as simple as that. I like the idea of, preserving, but the last thing I want is him and on a shack that has a couple pieces of usable teardrop siding. And it's not from a money standpoint either, it's just from I found this old place and the best thing for my budget is to get rid of it. I don't want to hold that process up, especially if it's 1970s or newer stuff.
Well, when you said you talk about potentially looking at 75 years or 100 years, I think the house built in 1923, to me, has a lot more historic value than the house built in 1960.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no argument on that, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's gotta be seen.
I would like to make a motion to table this until we hear what the designation parameters are at a minimum for the stay. Because then if we know it's a home only 75 years old, then someone would know that and know they have a stay, but sort of leave it open-ended. Then to me, it's saying every demo order gets a stay.
Okay, all I can do is recommend this. I'm not in this more than that.
Right.
Obviously, it's at least give us a 60-day in the squares. I don't think there's anything that known anyway. I think it's over. And I don't know if anyone that wants to knock down anything here in the square. Maybe not even the fire whole building is, it's in the historic.
So you would ask for the 60 days and then come back later?
Yeah,
With the
come back,
parameters?
because we have to meet that with the state, we have to meet that. The city could have lost a CLG, and that's a lot of money, and the education is very powerful. That's one thing about commissioners come in, if they're going to be sincere with being a commissioner, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of legality.
My thought on this is it's like, century houses are super cool, like I would want to see those stay. So I think, I don't know why we can't amend this and change this to say 60 days and then put a year on the house.
A year.
Like before 1970.
Well, once again, in 30 years, maybe the house built in the 70s is full.
Right.
I don't want this to be limited to our.
More than asbestos on that.
Well, Sure,
I agree.
but I don't want this to ever be something we're making decisions on our thoughts today versus what's the potential to be different. I mean, who would have thought heads to think as a whole?
We can amend this and say 60 days with a year.
That's it.
So then the 50 year could get away with it, but the 100 year has to wait 50 days.
Right, 60 days.
Are you talking about just the historic district?
No, we're talking about the
Yeah.
City.
Yeah, that's what you were asking for.
I think the current historic district should, because it's already currently designated, people know what it is. I'm assuming we're designated by block, right? But that should have a current stay, whatever that amount is.
Yeah, that's-
Having one across the entire city.
I got some,
Andrew.
and I think that's fair right there, because outside the district, there's a whole bunch of demolition regulation that's It's friendly, it's not as harsh as it sounds right now. It's friendly, there's a church, the Lutheran church over here, that house, they pull out that parking lot. They donated that. And I took the metal roof and the floor. So it does work, you know. We're not gonna move it, don't mean anything, but take the stuff.
So where does the stuff go?
Sorry,
Where does the stuff go that you get?
I'll do a contract. They'll
So are you
they'll
just giving it away or what's happening with that material?
I don't know.
Huh?
I have a tonic school, but yeah, no, there's no real actual set thing.
It'd be nice to have a barn here like the one they have in Waverly. Or like the Habitat Community restore. For instance.
You pay
When
the
people
owner
pay
for that
all the stuff.
material?
Sorry?
Are you paying the owner for that material?
No, you just don't need that.
What's the reason that this is coming to us now? Is this a new thing that the state or federal? put
It's
in?
been around for a long time, but the UDC has always been.
So is there a current fear of something happening, or is
No.
this just?
No, it's just, yeah, reserve.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, why today? Why are you sitting down on 4 years, you have 5 years, just like, what is the importance of
Because
that?
the last few years, I've struggled with the commission. Stuff. So it's always been an improvement.
What's staff's recommendation here?
Wait, gee, that's not the stuff.
Can you just try and wrap your head around what you're asking?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because right now, you're asking for the city limits. And then you go back and you say, well, just in the historic area. Like our little house is not in the historic area. So if we just limit this to the historic area, and I could just go tear that down.
For all of us.
See, so I say, we say 60 days citywide, 50 years or older. And that would protect.
I like the concept of that, just to at least give an opportunity for people to do the preservation.
When the state comes in, they're probably gonna lose some more barns. That happened in San Antonio in 35.
Will that apply to the state and all that?
Hmm?
Will this apply to the state and all that?
If it's in the city limits, I'm just assuming, I don't know where the highway is going, you know, the bypass.
That's why I'm doing it. Because like, the bypass comes,
Up in this
but
direction.
it protects out with the.
My house is built in
Yeah, but they're trying to protect the structures of the bypass, if the bypass were. to-
But does this protect it? I don't know.
If you're within the city limits of ETJ, against the state, I don't know.
Yeah, let's see. It doesn't say it.
But what happens there, and that happened to me in San Antonio Baptist Hospital on 35, some bigger than that place. We got donated 2 stories and that started a national renovation association. Just get it out of here, see if it's a story. And the record that we had, everybody felt that's not the one. You have a lot of naysayers, and I'm always the guy. It was opportunity, so it does happen.
So I'd like a little more information because so they file a permit and then who's gonna go out and determine it? And then how are they gonna get released from the demo order? And then I wouldn't wanna have some arbitrary date here when that's not what the state historic commission requires. So we're sitting here going, oh, you can't tear down a house 30 days, but really the state is, or 30 years, and really the state's 50 years. Like I would, for me, I would want to match it up because then we have this arbitrary.
I would know today is the number. Do you know what it states, what they deem historic? How many?
On theory, it's 50 years. On theory, it's not no written, it's just everybody. If you look, if you Google that, it's in theory. What happens in the case, and then you can throw in your appeal to the city council and say, I don't have money to wait that long. And they can appeal it due to economic reasons that they can bypass the city council after all the work we did.
Let me put a little devil's advocate here. Let's say, and God forbid, I hope this never happens. Let's say you leave here and you get a car. Who does this job?
If I get one, if I.
You get a car. Who does this job? Because you're talking about a third party person telling
That's
their
their
job.
job, we'll find another one. They've been having a hard time.
I never find somebody, but I'm not qualified to do it.
Right.
No,
I-
we'll find someone.
I'm just wondering at what point does that
The
become
number-
part of itself?
Who pays for
Okay.
that?
That's a problem,
I feel
right?
like
Who pays for that?
She might jump in, but the number one thing is get it on paper. Get it on paper. Don't worry about the human standpoint. I don't know, I won't be.
So-
My thought
And
is,
who's paying for that research? Like, who's paying for that research to get that information, if it's historic or a landmark?
So I've been donating all my time for, I've been on it 7 years.
my thought is if the state requirement is historic district, 60 days maximum.
Minimum.
I don't feel like we should set it without a maximum, and I feel like the maximum probably shouldn't be too far past 60 days. I mean, you've got, now you're gonna look at somebody else's property while they're losing money. I don't think we should make that infinite.
And I think it's funny too that we even need to be worried about if someone is gonna go in, obviously if someone just goes in, takes a track and dumps it down on a Sunday without pulling a permit, well, shame on them, they're gonna get fined. But we're hoping, and we know that most people are gonna pull a permit, but let's make sure we do our due diligence before we just approve the permit. What if we tearing down, if it meets those parameters of not worthy of that, Warren executes the permit, we go forward. But if it does, that person would know that based on the fact that it is a historic house, and they come in asking to done with, so we're already aware of the process that's going on.
So,
So that we can preserve something that is of value.
We should probably have a time frame for someone to look at it, right?
so to try to answer his question, we have a commissioner that's doing survey and inventory. She dismissed the wonder, I wonder. That way, when she gets all that, and we're supposed to be getting a grant for that, mark all the old rock walls, the assistant in high school, all that stuff. Leave that stuff alone, that kind of stuff. So that should help. Because when there's been other people that go get a permit in the city and they were not aware they're in a historic district, they bypass the COA. And hopefully it doesn't happen the less city that left, Jimmy Parker. And it's up to the city how they can follow, but I sent them a map to show them exactly where is a historic building. Everybody thought that it was a courthouse in front of the street and the square, that's it. It goes beyond that.
So for your research, are you then qualifying with the state that makes a historic building for the fact that if you held up this buyer or this doer, that, and it's just y'all, our opinion, you have something to back up that that's for true historic, so the city doesn't get sued?
Okay, the A part of that statement, when I get all the DDC or ordinance that I feel is good for Blanco, I send it to the state, they send it to the lawyers and they can go to the National Secretary of Interior. Okay, and they look, it matches this stuff. Typically what we do, we copy and paste what is Blanco. It's already been, why change the rule on your own?
Yeah.
I like it citywide because like he said, it keeps the structures there. And prevents it from turning into, you know, like some of these.
Well, yeah, and it can be, I like the concept too, but I'm just afraid of this right here. Getting to here, because, and that's not because I'm gonna do it for sure, but I'm opening to other clients, and the stuff that I preserve in this town alone is wonderful. Just repainting Candy Carville's office, you know, keeping that thing alive. If you replace like 6 pieces of trim, I've gotten more confidence on that thing job than I thought.
Where's that?
Like her office, Candy Cargill. So I don't want to see this, but I do like to see at least a process that says, hey, this is the basic requirements. Let's make that easy. Hey, it's not historical, go forward. It is historical. We recommend as quickly as possible. What are you doing? I want to tear it all down. Can we repurpose this? Can we give an opportunity? 2 weeks, get over to wherever it is. Get over here, get the people over here to take care of that good stuff and be done with it. Or we recommend rebuilding this thing exactly how it is or selling it. Because I don't want to be a family with 4 kids that buys this beautiful property that has a 1920s house on it, but it's dilapidated, and I'm held up from removing it to build my place for my kids and to be part of this community while someone's, bickering over termite infested teardrop site in 1920s home.
Well, that's if
Yeah,
we
we
say
can
it's
see
60
that.
day maximum. It sounds like y'all are saying minimum, so what is the maximum?
That's up to us.
Yeah, and I'm fine with those regulations, but let's not use that as a, let's sit over here and really worry about this teardrop siding because, and then really it's hurting the person that has the rights to build on the property from coming in here and building a life for themselves. The last thing I want to do is if I do decide to do something major with that, once I get the funds, and I have 9th and Hackberry, I own a duplex there, and I own that old rock house too behind it. That rock house is awesome. 9th and Hackberry. I have a duplex in the front, and then I have the rock house. I can't wait, we're never gonna kick Bart out, he's a great renter, but I can't wait to be able to fully restore that rock house to what it is. I don't even know the age on that. But I don't want to be held up on the teardrop siding one when I decided, I don't think I can make this, we literally put lipstick on a pig and we painted it, and it's rotting. We don't have termites, but I've done pest control, but it needs a lot of money. So I just don't want to be holding up that process, but having, time limits on it or maximum, minimum, whatever is great. But let's make sure that we at least put in there that we're making an effort to get this process through as quickly as possible,
Well, might be something like, we still let them know, 60 day maximum.
And the triage process is important.
7 or 8.
The triage process is important, right? Look at it, it comes in, yes or no.
Yeah.
Right? If it's yes.
I don't mind if it gets up there
it's
as long as we're
it's
just
not
saying,
good.
hey, we know all this stuff, let's go through the process and not just use this as this, shield to hold people up for no reason. But I do want to preserve stuff, absolutely. I think the town is charming, what she's done with the coffee shop. Square in general, it is a beautiful little square. Again, Trace, the Siobhan, and then we're painting that front, and keeping the same color and freshen stuff up. I love it.
Well, the point is that there isn't anything in place, and he's
Right.
asking to put something in place, so I think we should put something in place.
I think though, because I worry about lawsuits too, is that,
They can always appeal to the city council and bypass all this.
well, but you impact buyer and seller transactions, and if you put something like this citywide in the
Oh,
UDC,
landlords.
I think it needs to be announced so realtors know, because if that's not disclosed in the buy-sell transaction, and they buy that, and then all of a sudden they find out this is now a historic, that's an issue. So I think somehow the city, if you're gonna do it citywide, since the rest isn't designated, there should be some sort of notification. that
But let's
goes
see,
out with it.
let's see if I understand this a little better, okay? Let's say we do 50 years, okay? And we'll go to 60 or 90 later, 50 years. And there's a demolition, and I flag it because it's more than 50 years old, and I give it to you. You just make a determination, or you have to actually get the CLA to determine that it's not an historic structure.
So I'd have to go out there and take a look. If it's trashy, grandma changed the siding every 4 years, I've seen houses like that. They would say it's not worth it. Then I bring it back to the commissioners, bring them photos. During their time, they can go take a look. And then they can determine it's not worth saving, let them knock it down.
So anything over 50 years old with action then still have to go to the commission. I mean, to the historic.
Yes, and there is on the writings, that there should be an architectural design committee. And again, that's all, it just works, it just works. And in that committee, it could be builders, it could be realtors, but it just works.
But if it's in the bylaws, it has to be followed, right? Because the
No
bylaws-
ordinance. It recommends to have an architectural design committee. And then you get contractor layperson. So you get neutral ground rather, well, they were all pros, they wanted the lumber. So that way you get opinions. But that goes back to the city to develop that committee.
And most of those fill committees already.
Right.
Yeah, but that's,
Sure.
But if can't compete, we can't compete.
But like Julie said, she likes the idea of the whole, I do too. There's a couple, I think right now for sale on 7th Street that I would hate to see torn down. They've got the whole front post, the new post and the paper columns and the whole deal and all of the filigree work, and they've got the corbels. It's beautiful. But as long as that person obviously is aware before fact of what they're getting into, but also gets the opportunity to So to make the process easy, I'm okay with putting those laws, but it's not like we have to sit there and dissect each one and wait on it. As long as there's an actual professional process to it, I think it's a great idea to keep the town, keep the car,
Well, I think it's something like 10 days to let them know yes or no, 60 day max. Like, it's not holding them up a ton, but it gives y'all time to go look at it and make decisions. Now, granted, it puts the burden on y'all to be quick, but you're putting the burden on them to wait. So I think we gotta both work together.
Well, 60 days is plenty of time. We don't take a month. Like when we do COAs, we have 45 days to do that. Then it works out.
Well, but my thought is you would do something more like 10 days to let them know yes or no it's restored. 60 days.
That's cutting it.
Sure, but you're asking them to
Not-
sit here on.
But they may not wanna buy it if they know already they wanna buy that property, tear it down, they're in the middle of a closing 30-day contract, so.
In the last 10
That's
years,
part of
has
the
that
problem.
happened here in town? Just 10 years. That they bought property and knocked it down?
And they has been knocked down in the past.
In the last 10 years, you
Yeah.
don't think recall. I
I
don't know.
bought one that was originally built in the 40s, was torn down entirely and rebuilt, and then I bought it. That was.
Was it a landmark?
I bought it after 3
That's
years.
where landmarks come in.
But I mean, it's on 14th Street and all of 14th Street.
Should not put it on the definition of page what is a landmark. There. One location, it'll go from list of this.
So I'm curious about that. So designated landmark versus what we call a landmark.
That's what I was asking, what's the landmark referencing and paragraph?
And is that state designated? Does the
Historic
state have to
landmark.
designate it?
Page 2.
But it doesn't say historic landmark, it just says eligible landmark.
On page 2?
No, and what you're asking us to approve.
Page 5.
Historic landmark on page 2 is what he's saying. An individual property designated by the city council. So we designate,
I'm sorry?
the city council designates, I mean,
And
the-
again, we don't like this is already in the ordinance. But if you go back to the historic preservation commissioners, they have that assignment. To do survey inventory. And they have hired outside consultants to do that. It's just another video for that money. It doesn't have to be local people, it can be professional.
well, but what I'm saying is, it says here, an individual property designated by the city council, which is Blanco City Council.
After it's been approved to commissioners, and I believe the second level, it's you guys, then it goes. To recognize what is a historic landmark.
Can I give a real life scenario? I think it was 2017. Maybe 18, I can't remember now, from the invoices. I redid a light upgrade to the old BC building. We didn't change anything to the structure on the exterior. We wanted to repaint. That process alone, even though that is not a historic building, it's not a landmark. Maybe it was a landmark internally before, but it's been completely commercialized back in the 90s. That process did actually hold me up, even though it's not a historic building. It's actually outside the historic district. I had cops show up. Project manager took care of most of the PR work for me, so I wouldn't, be in the face of the public on that. But it held us up.
What building was that we
It's the
said?
PC building. That's
That is in the historic district.
it's on the edge of it.
It goes all the way to the left.
Okay, so it's in the historic district, but it was not a historic building. Especially from the exterior, you can tell. That was a pretty annoying little process that held up some time, and more or less, not even just from a time standpoint, it's from just the whole process of,
I saw the permits on
we got permits.
it. I've seen them.
Yeah, and actually, I think they communicated with you on it, but it was a delay in the project, and and I don't mind having the code in there to say we needed to check with that, but I would have wished that process would have been, oh yeah, that's already been painted 10 times, it's got stucco siding with commercial retail front windows and doors and a drive-through lane that's totally not historic looking, go for it. And it wasn't that process, it was at least 2 weeks, and it might even have been 30 days, because Andy Cargo got involved and some other people that talked about it. And I was like, hey, you guys do what you want to do. And I told Stormy, the client, I said, hey, you guys need to start working this out. But it was a little bit of a nuisance.
Yeah, the latest owners came by, got a COA, we approved it.
Yeah, we did.
Then we found out that the two stucco areas used to have a full glass.
Right.
On the community bank. That was
So we followed the process. I went and got the colors matched and approved and the whole deal, and we did it all right.
And we don't,
And I'm not angry about it by any means, because,
and we don't mess with the inside.
right,
Historic commission is only worried about the
right.
outside.
And that was fine. We wanted to, dot the i's and cross the t's, and we did, and that's not a problem. The problem that I can recollect was that it was just kind of another hoop to jump through.
You know, there's always
So
somebody.
as long as we make that an easy process, I don't mind having the regulations to make sure we're preserving stuff, and not just try to preserve things that's not preservable for no reason, and then.
Like when I was active in business,
That makes
somewhere
sense.
here in front of there, there was two poles holding the old beam here. And we put those 4 LPOs up here, put the beams here back over here. All the states that saved them posted theirs back on. And then we put one over here with the address. That's all they want to say as much as you
Yeah, no, I love that concept.
I just sort of feel like if the UDC section's so weak, that it needs to be beefed up in conjunction with the state, because the state, I get you're trying to preserve, which I do think is important, but you're also stopping business, you could be stopping sales. So I don't know if just the state
We can leave
is
it,
as good if you don't beef up sort of what would cost to stay, to at least as best that you can.
we can leave it as is. The only thing that we must do here in the city is a 60-day minimum for the district. Then I would take it back to the commissioners and say, we really gotta do some more work. And then when I'm gonna hit the city with it, I gotta get paid somewhere. Cause it's a lot of work. I'm hoping they'll go on it.
So you said several times 60-day minimum. What is the maximum?
There's none. We do that locally. That's what the commission did.
You can take 2 years. You could take 2 years to decide what to do with a building before it's been done.
Before you can demo.
Can we say 60
Yeah,
day minimum?
Yeah, that's what
And
it's.
70 day maximum?
I think it has to have maximum. We can't just give,
Free reign to.
yeah, we gotta protect the businesses too.
So what I'm hearing is more work, right, for the process and all the things that we need citywide, but right now, today, we have a 60-day minimum, but we want to do some type of maximum. So we don't want 90-day maximum. So do we want a 60-day, minimum with a 70-day maximum?
That's the ball from you.
What's that process look like? So let's say, I don't know, this building, they wanted to do something with it. And y'all are sitting here saying, okay, we've got 60 days minimum to figure out what that looks like. Then what's the process?
I want to demo this building now
Yeah, like,
for Brandon.
you've got 60 days.
You're gonna deny because it's already a historic district.
Okay, but we're talking about the historic district.
Yeah, no, but you would get denied. We would have to go to the state and get their kind of feedback. Same thing as like knocking down the old courthouse, which at one time it was gonna get moved.
So basically.
Okay, are you saying that because it's the Byron building, or because it's in this district? So let's say
Yeah, this is not in the district right now, but it's.
let's say the old bank, they wanted to tear that down and redid it because it's in the historic district. You'd say you'd have 60 days minimum to tell them, we want to come do an investigation.
They cannot do anything for 60 days. Come back down for 60 days.
But that's the
Find an
minimum.
attorney test. That's the minimum state requirement.
So then after that 60 days, what happens?
They get a, if nothing happened, then they get a permit.
Well, what's the worst case scenario? Let's say you decide that it does have some sort of significance. Do you then tell them they can't? Do you tell them, we're gonna take it out piece by piece, but only 2 years?
And again, it would have to go back to the state. I cannot, since nothing is in writing here, I cannot determine something that he said.
I just don't think it's appropriate for us to make decisions based upon no information at all.
Real quick, let's talk, Rudy, a little about certificate of appropriateness. So certificate of appropriateness goes, we've had one for, I can't think, so pharmacy. So you had that for the pharmacy. It went to a COA to do that second story. And certificate of appropriateness, they took a while, but they eventually got it. They become double bond. It shows the different drawings. So they finally got it, but from when you start from what day one to day whatever, it's capped at 45 days, right?
Or see what, right.
See what?
I was not involved with that time, that was more than disproved that.
Sure.
So I cannot follow up that well.
So I'm confused why there's a 60-day minimum with the state and a 45-day.
One COA, one stay on demolition.
Once that 60 days is met, they have 45 days for it,
Well, no,
right?
so when you go to apply for a COA, they have 45 days to go through the review, otherwise it's approved. And so that's a whole, that's, you have to approve, you do your thing.
45 days to deny.
Check. And then what he's talking
No,
about.
to give an answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got after the COA is done, then it would start 60 days, and the 60 days start at the beginning of the application of the COA. Like, what is that 60 days? Where does it start? Where does it end? I just want to make sure when we're talking about open-ended issues.
Let me try to answer a different way.
Okay.
The commissioners have in the UDC that they can meet on the second Monday of the month. They call that a special meeting. So that kind of shortens your space. If we wait till the end of the month, if it was not informed, that prolongs that. Okay. Y'all asking me questions that until I cannot answer some of that. But it's on theory by.
So it's, yeah, so it's hard for us to make a decision.
Well, the 60 days is mandated. Somehow it's got, might have to go straight to the city council, because when Laurie put it to you guys, I thought, where in the UDC did it say I gotta go before PDC? I didn't see it. Do y'all know where it's at?
Yeah.
I seen it one time and then seemed like it was after when.
No, they're the whole part about historical and it's planning and zoning. This is everything from historical to planning and zoning for things.
But then some other section it doesn't say that, but that happens with historic too.
Like all COAs are technically, I think, supposed to go to us and the council anyway.
COAs?
Yeah.
No.
It says it in the.
That's
I mean, that's what it says in the UC.
No, because
It's
you
never
never
done.
it could be for painting. It could be for painting.
Sure, I'm not saying it won't come to us, I'm just.
It's in writing, yeah.
It's in the
not
UC.
conflict. I've seen it.
I don't want more red tape
So
or
the
anything. like that.
60 days stay those already designated. So,
It's mandated on the state.
yeah, so when you talk about citywide, those aren't designated yet.
No, we can leave that for later, because you'll give me a good.
Okay, so the 60 days, then, it's here. In no event will the delay of issuance of the building permit exceed 120 days. And we want to say more than 60, but we don't want 120. That's what I'm understanding, right? Because that's 4 months, and that's a long time.
Yeah, I think if the state's saying 60 days, then you have a reason for doing that. I just think we need to have at least some sort of a grasp of maximums.
Can it not be the same, the minimum and maximum? Minimum 60, maximum 60.
What do you want to go further out? If I want to do it, I want it, I don't want
If you're
to.
saying a minimum of 60.
Right,
there's
that's
no
what you're
maximum.
saying. Exactly, but you're saying minimum, so I'm saying and maybe I'm misunderstanding. You're saying a minimum of 60 days that says you cannot be any lower than 60 days.
You cannot do anything with that building.
Right, so then you're saying you can, there's not a maximum because you only have a minimum, so you can go to 1,000.
You can go to work.
That's
Without
not
days, there's no maximum, you're only giving a minimum.
So if we say a maximum of 60 days, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's fine.
But from a minimum of 60 days, I don't understand that.
Well, I'm just going on what the state says, I know where we
Okay.
go maximum.
But then if we-
I think it's accountability.
I think it says certificate, minimum, 60 days stay of demolition. And once that 60 days is up, they can demo. Like, the city has to, or whoever has to give them an answer within 60 days. And they want, if they want to say no, and it's been 60 days and they waited 62 days, the guy could go on day 61 and rip the building down.
If it says maximum, the minimum says you at least have to wait that long.
No, you only have to wait the minimum.
That's it.
No, you have to wait the minimum. They haven't established, you haven't established a maximum yet.
Right, so you have to wait at least the minimum, but it's not saying where the timeline stops where you're allowed to demo. It says you've got to wait at least 60 days, but if you find something, then you can wait infinitely. There's not like a timeline where it says, okay, you're done, you're good to go.
Don't you
And
have?
that's what I'm saying.
So what, I guess what needs to be written is the requirement for them to tell you yes or no.
Yeah. Notification is required.
And that should be
up
60
to-
days.
Within up to 60 days or something.
That makes sense, and that seems like what it's saying, but let's say they then say, yes, it is, then what is the timeline for you to be able to do?
Wait, so they say, yes, you can demo?
No, they say, yeah, we found something
Then you
historical.
can't demo. And so then there needs to be a second tier. So they have 60 days to tell you, yes, it's historical, you can't demo. And then I guess there should be a second timeline of,
But you already have a COA that says that you can do the project. Then they're saying, yes, it's historical value, but we want to come and save the pieces to it. Am I understanding that right?
Basically.
So then they would
Yeah,
come and
yeah,
have somebody
save the
specifically come and take it down piece by piece so they can save it instead of you just pull it. How is
And
that?
that part that you're saying is still not in writing. It's true, but it's waiting to get it in writing.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just hearsay. You say, I say it, he says it, but where do I get it?
I think
I get it in writing.
We're all in agreement wanting to make sure that this is preserving as much as possible. I think the biggest thing is if it's open-ended, it means that someone can drag your feet for 60 days to then tell you, sorry, we found something which you're excited about, but the guy that just really wants to monitor the structure there isn't. What's his then next
Recourse.
expectation and recourse? Because as much as I want to preserve, I really wouldn't feel right about holding someone up for 120, 180 days, 6 months, 8 months go by, and we're still deciding how we're gonna dilapidate this thing and piece it out, or how we're gonna rebuild it. I'll tell you what, if I knew that from up front, and that might be an issue, I wouldn't buy the property in the first place.
Well, and then the question, when you start to get citywide, then over here, it's all stone structures, there's not a whole lot to change, but when you start to step around the city and you get these wooden structures, and maybe one side, they did take the siding down, they painted it, now are you gonna control that they have to renovate it back to original, and now they've gotta put all the siding back up, or you see like it's
Well,
starting?
there's, yeah, a lot of things that I
Which,
just don't want to be approving something that would have just open-ended thing, just to basically stall a project.
Well, like you're talking about all the time, we don't want to do one thing that has other implications that we don't see. Which is why I think we've had an hour.
And this is only demolition. This is only demolition, not restoration or renovation or restoration. It's only demolition.
Right, but so you get the COA, you're allowed to do the thing, the project you were gonna do, they come in and they realize, hey, this does have historic value, you're approved to demo, but we wanna save this stuff, we're gonna come in and do it a certain way. How long do they have? I think that's the
You're talking
issue.
about demolition in the historic district when you say that. Right? The only one that I know that everything changed on in PC is the bank. I look at the old 1960s. Looks entirely different. It had marble in the front like a bank, weird windows, and you look, it's not the same. That was not demolition. That was kind of deconstruct what was there and modernize it with a good country look. That's what happened there. If that helps you. with
But I
what you're
think,
saying.
well, I think it's more planning for when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, everything we do is gotta be not problems we have to have.
Why don't y'all do that? My recommendation on the move here. Y'all want to table this and take a look longer? in
Okay.
this?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sorry, I think we're all in agreement to do
I'll
something.
contact the state, maybe they can have a conversation with one of you.
Okay.
Okay. Y'all want to,
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great. I just would
Yeah, I
think that
think we
this.
just need just a little bit more information.
you gotta brainstorm it so longer.
Yeah.
you're good.
I make a motion to table.
I second.
All in favor?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Rudy. Sorry to take so much of your
No,
time.
that's all right. It's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, there's just always consequences. Okay, approval of minutes. Okay, approval of minutes. You don't have to answer the- You can make a motion,
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
second. All in favor? Vacancies, I don't think we have any technical applications yet, do we?
Not yet.
I've got a few people that have told me they were interested, I'll try to get applications, anybody else?
I think there should be something to somebody.
Yeah,
I
mine
think
is
so.
not gonna-
Yeah, I reached out to
he's
people.
looking to do it out of town work on top of. local.
I really hate to do this, and y'all can tell me no, but I know we're working on trying to cook this as fast as we can. I feel like we've been here for 2 hours, do y'all wanna table the 7 minutes, or do we wanna work comments tonight? You wanted a short meeting, I think everybody's probably,
I have to be out of here by 8:15 because I have a meeting.
Agency supply, one side that is as well.
that
isn't full, that should be regular science approved, right?
are you talking about,
For the round place. Jim and Dan at agency supply, they do that.
yeah, so we're talking about two poles beside the building that's already there?
No, they needed, well, there was one there before, but it was dilapidated. They want a regular G-post.
Which would essentially be a variance, they just come to us
Is it a variance for that?
with the new sign.
Well, the new ordinance would, but if they do it now, they turn it in, she and I had discussions about it, if she turns it in the next couple of weeks.
It basically be like the feed store sign, a double sided.
Okay. So essentially just turns it in center, don't have to worry about it.
But under the new ordinance, you can only get one little sign.
So you come to with the variance. and then-
Right, under the old ordinance, you can get.
Okay, so then you see her all the time. You just want to let her know tomorrow, just put it in soon and she'll be done. We're all okay with tabling this and working on it? I know we've been working on this forever.
And if you guys wanna give me your comments, we'll make it real tight, I can make it tighter and down, and then we'll be able to get it.
I'll be able to.
I got one right now. I'll be able to-
I have a meeting with you.
Perfect. We have a motion.
A motion to take the discussion.
Second.
Who seconded?
And,
Do we have a motion to get out of here?
I'm moving to adjourn.
Get out of here, 7:52. I'm sorry, all that was